Hey everybody, Ryan here from Music City Live. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here today with Eddie Gordon, a close personal friend of mine. He's up here right now from LA, Spain. He's the globetrotter. He's all over the world. He's originally from England. Eddie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to be in London with the River Thames.
Yes.
And Oxford Street and all those other places that are familiar to me, but
Absolutely.
in another country.
Right? I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I brought you here, it was like 2017.
Yeah.
You stayed in town. I was doing the CDJ show.
That's right.
And you stayed in town, and we took you around London, showed you the university and the River Thames. Yeah. And
I went up north.
Yeah, that's right.
As well.
Muskoka.
To the place up there, which was lovely.
Yeah, Muskoka. Yeah. It was, we stopped in at a restaurant up there in Muskoka Lakes. It was, it's a great spot.
Yeah, I've still got the pictures on my phone and the Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
From the Canadian side, yeah.
Of course.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Niagara Falls is a great time.
Do you hear about that as a kid when you're in England, see pictures of it? But to see it was like something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite incredible. And I mean, the Canadian side is obviously a little bigger than the American side. So
yeah.
A lot of Americans actually come over just to see the Canadian side. It's pretty funny, actually. You go there.
Get away from the Kardashians.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all good.
There's no Kardashians in Canada. We're safe.
Oh, we got a few of our own that are wannabes, but it's all good. So why don't we let some people know some stuff about you? So you're from England originally?
Yeah. From a town on the River Thames, funny enough, called Gravesend.
Yeah.
There's also a Gravesend in New Jersey, I think, in the US. There's a big TV show going on about that now. Yeah, but from Gravesend in Kent, where they say that Pocahontas was buried, the Indian warrior princess.
I did not know this.
There's a statue of her down by the river there. So Gravesend was famous for almost infamous, really, for having the most pubs of a town in the country.
Oh, really?
Public houses, at 96 or something for a population of about 70,000.
Wow.
So it was a real drinking town.
Yeah.
Which later in life played a part in, my DJ world, because there were so many venues to go and DJ. So kind of jumping ahead a little bit there, but
that's all good.
Yeah, there wasn't a particular club that had a 2 a.m. license that was a club that had a dance floor. So it wasn't allowed because the town council thought the place was too rough. Or the police didn't want to be out till 2 a.m. clearing the streets up, so they wouldn't allow any big nightclubs in there, which was great. Because like 10 miles up the road, there's a town called Dartford, and there was a big club there called Flicks, and the Flicks dominated that area. It was 1,000 capacity, maybe more venues. So its music policy dominated that area. Whereas in my hometown, Gravesend, because you were putting your own parties on and other DJs were doing the similar things, the music was a lot more adventurous, but you also had to be good, because if you took people to a venue that they weren't used to going, you had to play interesting music, not just stuff from the charts.
Right.
But stuff that would, keep them interested. So Gravesend grew up, or the Gravesend people grew up, and the place grew a reputation being quite musically interesting.
And there's my neighbors from there, right? Is that where my neighbor's from? Remember I introduced you to him? John next door?
Oh, yes, of course. He used to come to the Slammer. That's right.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
It was a crazy situation. I told you, right? We were playing ball outside, and I knew he was from England. And I went to mention your name, and he goes, "What? Eddie Gordon?
That prisoner."
And he, what are the odds, right? That's what I always tell people, music industry is 2 degrees of separation, but that proves right there, it really is,
It was great. I love living in Gravesend. It was a great place to put musical parties on, because you could, you got your own sound system like yourself. You had to be innovative. So it made you think out of the box all the time, and you grew a following there. But we had some great times down in terms of putting events on. Pete Tong comes from there.
Mm-hmm.
There's other big DJs and music industry people that came out of there because you had to get on. You had to be creative.
Yeah.
Like Dartford, I mentioned, there was one place, so there was the one DJ there, Colin Howard. So the other DJs in the town couldn't really give it competition because that dominant 1,000 people in there from Dartford almost took everybody that was going out for the night out
right
into one venue. You know, it was a great venue. They played some great music there, but we were lucky because we could do our own thing.
Sure. Yeah, and we're kind of like that to Toronto. Right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I see that,
and it's good because London's a student based town too, so
right.
there's a lot of young people to go out.
Yeah.
So we've had it great for many years. I mean, the world's changing now, and what gets kids' attention now is changing too. So we'll get to that later in the podcast too. But I mean, it's that plays a role in how successful quote unquote nightclubs are too.
Right.
But how did you get into music?
Well, I was fascinated with it as a kid, and we used to buy 7-inch records in those days. At lunchtime, we would either go and have school dinner, or we'd go to a friend's house, and their mum would cook lunch, school lunch rather, or cook the lunch, and then we'd give her our school dinner money.
Oh,
so
okay.
quite often we would go to somebody's house and have school lunch there, and give our £1 to her. And invariably, you get into a conversation with them. I would also ask them about their music, and they'd have a box of records up in the attic or in the shed that they were no longer had any use for, and I would buy them off of them. So little boxes of 7 inches, and there'd be all kinds of stuff in there. The Beatles, Rolling Stones, Victor Moan, all kinds of mad stuff, from America as well. And I would take them home and study them. Play the A side, the B side. Them. Yeah, because I play both sides and listen to the lyrics and get into the song and get quite involved in that. So from a very early age, I built up a big collection of these 7-inch records. So, and one of them in particular, I'll just forward on a bit because it became a stepping stone to having a hit record myself.
Oh, really?
I remember sitting in my bedroom listening to 7-inch of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes on the Philadelphia label. It was a song called The Love I Lost.
Okay.
And I remember listening to that thinking, as a kid, gosh, it's sad, this song. Because he can remember playing his whole life and then she goes away and leaves him. And then many years later, when I was working in the industry, I was listening to that song again. I was tapping my foot to it thinking, it's not really a ballad. It's 120 BPM. Well, it's make a perfect dance record. It sounds like a ballad, the way he's singing it, but the tempo behind it was up there, up 120.
Yeah, right.
So I recorded it with an artist called Sybil.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a huge hit with that. It was number 1 in the club charts, national club charts for 5 weeks, and peaked at number 3 in the national chart.
Wow.
But the story behind the record is it was the original disco beat structured by the drummer we had
Earl Young
in Canada.
Yeah.
Whose name slips my mind to this. Earl
Young.
Earl Young, yeah.
Yeah.
So Earl was given that song by Gamble and Half Who owned Philadelphia because it was a ballad and said, can you put some sizzle underneath this? It's a bit bland. So he comes up with this 4 to the floor beat for it and then delivers the song back and it becomes a hit. But that was the very first time that the disco beat, as it is, was created. And from there on, that beat has been used on house records. It got used on all the disco records. It became the template for dance music. And still today, house music, techno music is based a lot of it around, or most of it, around that 4 to the floor beat. And it fascinates me because it's the whole journey of going back to listening to the song when I was a kid on the Green Philadelphia label and it playing quite a role in my life, really, going forward.
Yeah.
yeah, so collecting records like that. Then I had a really big crush on my first girlfriend, love. And after 3 years, we split. She was going out with a fancy jazz funk dancer.
Okay.
She said to me one day, he's a much better dancer than you. Oh, right, okay. So I went out that weekend and bought some 12 inches. Some 12-inch records, some jazz records. One of them was on the Tap and Z label. It was all really Wilbert Longmire, Black is the Colour, and Ralph T. And I can't remember something. Mongo Santa Maria. That was a Mongo, what was that called? That will come to me later. And I learned to dance to that in the house, to that 12-inch over and over again until I could go out and actually do it on the floor.
Wow.
And
there's not enough of that nowadays.
No. And then one day he turned up at a gig where I was at, and the DJ played a song that I knew every beat of called Expansions by Lonnie Liston Smith on the Flying Dutchman label. 7 minutes and 1 second.
Nice.
Analog.
I will.
Actually, no, it's 6 minutes or 1 minute. 6 minutes and 1 second. And when he started playing that song, the DJ, I knew that song beat by beat all the way through. So I went to the floor, he went to the floor, and we had a dance off.
Wow.
And I beat him.
Really?
Yeah. Because I came
Incredible.
back, my friend said to me, it was a girlfriend there was with me called Helen Johns, who was just a buddy. She said, that was wicked. You took him. Right? And it was
that's great.
that buried that ghost.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of thing. I knew how to dance. I enjoyed doing that. And then I met up with a DJ that was a very chatty DJ called Peter Pritchard, very good guy. And he needed help to move his stuff around and stuff like that. And I would work behind him, behind the turntable. So because I knew all these songs, he would carry on talking on the mic, and I would be putting the records on behind him like that.
Oh, okay.
Right, so the next song, and lining them up for him. So and this is, the Detroit Spinners, Working My Way Back to You, blah, 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 blah. So, and I spent a bit of time with him doing that, and I watched the sequence of how he would put those records together. Even though I'd pick him up, he'd tell me, give me this, give me that. And
it's all in his head back then.
yeah. And then he decided, because he was 10 years older, that he wanted to be a landlord in a pub further down in Kent, and left the disco equipment behind. He said, you can have that.
Wow.
Right? It wasn't great stuff, but
But it doesn't matter.
did the job.
Yeah.
It was 2 sets of decks, bass bins, and upright speakers, and Altec horns. We was always fussy about the Altec horns.
Yeah.
And
I've got some out in a shipping container in storage somewhere right now, I'm pretty
I
sure.
think I saw some in your dad's place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I inherited the equipment, and I was great at sequencing the records, but I hated talking because the other guy was so good.
Sure.
I didn't like the sound of my voice. It wasn't, I couldn't project properly. And a little while into all of that, I saw a poster going up around town that a promoter was bringing Radio 1 DJs down to Gravesend to play in the big civic hall, which was called the Woodville Halls, which holds about 1,200 kids. Or can either be a seated venue as a theatre, or everything's cleared out and it's a dance floor of a big theatre stage. I phoned up the promoter and said to him, saw the number on the poster, and said to him, I should be DJing on that gig that you're doing here with Peter Powell, who was a Radio 1 DJ. He said, why is that? I said, because I can help you fill it. Me, to be honest, I was playing to 15 people a week in a place called the Little Wonder, just starting then. And we'd put our own parties on, but that was different. We had a crowd that would come to them.
Sure.
So he let me play. And then he said, yeah, I won't pay you for the first one. We'll see how you do. It was full up, completely rammed out. It wasn't because of me, but it was full up. And he said, I want you to play on all of them now. So the next guy to come down from Radio 1, this is all reference to the microphone, was a guy called Simon Bates, who was also from Radio 1. And when he spoke in the mic, his voice filled the room, wall to wall, ceiling to floor. And I was stood behind him thinking, wow, the power that he projects in that voice. So I went and had breathing lessons, how to work from here with the air out to your voice. So I could then, not as good as him because he was years and years of experience, but I took it serious. Took it very serious.
Wow, that's cool.
And then I started putting my own nights on. We had a club called the Slammer we started, which was named after tequila slammers.
Okay.
Really?
Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I was reviewing the Wikipedia before doing my studying.
We'd had a stag night with one of the guys that was a good local dancer and music fan, and a kid I'd known since he was 8. We used to play football over the back of his house in a big sports field. And for his wedding, we went out on a stag night and we were all drinking tequila slammers. Then we found a venue, which was an old rock pub. We found that venue and basically did a lot of work to, turned it into 2 floors because there was a barrel storage room downstairs. And we said to the landlord, this could be another room down here if you built a bar into it. And then we could have parties here with 2 rooms going. We could have jazz and funk downstairs, house and rap upstairs, and we could rock this place. And he was up for it. But he was a DJ himself. He used to have a sound system called the Boss sound system, and he used to play reggae.
Oh, yeah?
So he wanted it booming.
Sure.
As well. Terry Lee, lovely guy. Still talk to him today. So we got into there, into that venue, and we did it for 2 floors, brought the best DJs down from London, people like CJ McIntosh, Paul Oakenfold, Dave Durrell, Norman J, all came down. So we'd have special guest DJs down with us, and we used to fill it up. The unique part was having door staff that nobody knew. We brought down London door staff to Gravesend being about 25 miles away from London. So nobody knew the guys on the door, and they couldn't say, let me in or I'll set fire to your car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll be round.
They didn't have any buddies on the door.
They didn't know anybody. No. So they couldn't, they couldn't angle their way in. They just knew they just saw these big blokes in their dicky bows and black ties, what have you.
That's a strategy.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know who they were. They couldn't play around and mess with them. And we won a few awards with that night, the Slammer.
Wow.
Kent's best night out and all kinds of stuff. But it launched my career, really. Because record company people started coming down to see what all the noise was about. And one of the guys came down who worked for MCA Records, Adrian Sykes. And he said, if you could create this noise in this shithole, right? Where people want to come from all over the place, and they were literally, because everything was done by database mailing listing. So people would come from Essex, from Sussex, from London to Gravesend, right?
Wow.
And if you can create this energy here, you'd be good at working music, like promoting records and stuff. So I got my first gig at MCA because of the Slammer. But like I said in the beginning, you had to be creative in Gravesend because there was nothing else going on.
Right.
Down to we had the name The Slammer on a bright yellow Dayglow stickers that we put on the road signs. Mm. So when we put a message out to the database, if you're coming down with people, if you're driving down, just follow the yellow signs on the road signs. Because it would be yellow Dayglow with the name, this logo, the Slammer, and it would lead them down through the back of the town into the venue, because the venue was in the middle of a huge, big industrial estate. It wasn't really a place that people wanted to go at night. Certainly not walk there. So it was all those creative things. Used to put a video together, which was about 2-3 hours long. Of I showed it to you the other day, of famous people dancing, like the Walt Disney sequences.
Yeah.
So in a Walt Disney film, they've got like 50 elephants doing a dance, or Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, or all those famous dance routines that came with the Disney movies. I would cobble that together into a videotape. So they'd have 2 videotapes and burn each sequence onto the third one, and put that up behind the DJ. So as the people were facing the stage, it looked like all these people on the big screen, the dancers, were dancing to the beat, whether it was hip hop or house. It seemed to fall into sync, and
that's awesome.
It created something. You know, the venue wasn't a brilliant venue because it was an old rock venue, so we put all these special banners up and like turned it into a harem. So when they come in, they went, "Well, look what's inside here," like an Aladdin's cave.
Yeah,
but the music was good as well, and we used to put a fantastic sound system. Well, I really learned that, you know, if you've got it's like having a V8 engine. You need to open up and go down the road. You've got to put your foot down and you're off.
Yeah.
You know, and we had that mentality with the sound. If we want to turn it up, we've got a brand new record, and it's got the hip hop record or a house.
Yeah. You got to have the headroom.
Yeah, we got that extra room, and we could just go and open it up.
And the clubs don't have that now. I mean, I do
They're
sound
not allowed
system.
to, are they?
I do. Well, I do sound system installs still at, you know, I mean, that's how I cut my teeth, right? When I first started the store, was doing club installs. And things have changed a lot, you know.
Right.
I mean, people now are trying to, you know, they'll buy a sound system for doing background music, and they'll try and put a DJ on it, or they'll buy a small system that's good for a wedding, and they'll try and use it in a club, or, you know, or the quality of the cabinets just isn't there. You know, you need a certain, like you said, a certain amount of headroom and power, and it's just not there. Does sound come out? Yeah, but it doesn't sound very good.
Especially after a couple of hours, it gets tired. If the amps aren't strong either,
yeah, and
it starts to thrash through the speakers, you know. And we never had that. We always had extra room. You gotta
have headroom. I mean, people ask us that all the time at some of the real big concerts we do. Right? They're like, "This is incredible sounding.
Yeah,
how do you do this?" And it's like, well, the subs are running at 30%, and they're just floored. They're like, "How's that possible?"
Yeah,
and it's like, well, that they are. Like, that's part of how we get our clarity in the PA is, you know, we're not creating all this distortion, right?
Right.
Because we got tons and tons of headroom in the PA.
This pub was in a place like Charterhouse Road, in a place like this.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, there were huge factories on that road, paper mill factories, cement mills, AEI cables. They all ran on shift work, so they were operating 24 hours. I used to cycle past that place when I was a paper boy, selling newspapers at the Blue Circle cement place. And they'd have strippers in there at lunchtime. And they still have the lights on at sort of 6, 7 o'clock. They were still drinking in there.
Wow.
I used to laugh that, you know, I used to cycle past there fast in case one come out and grabbed me at 14 years old. Come here, you. But it was dingy, and there's a lot of cement dust all up the windows because there was always cement lorries going past, and because it was right down by the river, it was invariably wet roads. Okay. So it was a dingy place. But we got people down there.
Yeah, you made it work.
Yeah. And it won Club of the Year and blah, blah, blah. And still to this day, you know, people say to me, "Oh, those Slammer days were brilliant." Because it was moving away from the chrome and mirror clubs where they had to come in with trousers and wear a tie and all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, they could come in whatever they wanted to wear, really. And when the rave scene kicked in, oh my God, you know, that went crazy then. So that was my early DJing days and stuff like that.
You mentioned that's how you launched into the MCA gig.
Yeah, because I knew how to promote the gig, and I knew how important a database was. You know, you must have a database of clients for this, you know, and it helps you operate when you've got new stuff coming in, that you can communicate with your database directly.
Yes.
You know, going off topic a second, when the music business kind of collapsed, I thought it was the perfect time for labels to have a database of people that buy their music. So instead of putting it in the store and asking the guy who runs the store, "Will you please take 10 of our records?" And if it don't sell, we put some behind at the back of behind all the other records, so they're out of the way, they're out of visibility. I always thought if you have a great database, then you're writing direct to the people that potentially want your records.
That's right.
And a big lesson came once for me on that, because I used to run another night in another town in Gillingham called the Sleaze. We'd run that. It was a club above another club. So we'd get 400 people up there. We'd have Norman J, Giles Peterson playing. Tong would play down there as well. Once a month we would do that. And the lesson quickly was we'd got a date booked on a Friday once a month, and we were 4 days away from that Friday. And the manager of the club called me and said, I'm really sorry, but I've double booked upstairs. You can't run this Friday. Great, I've got all the flyers out. We've mailed everything out. He said, well, you can't have it. I'll give you the next one for free, but you can't have the venue this Friday. So that was Monday. So I quickly cobbled a letter together and got it out in the post on Tuesday saying, don't come Friday. We can't open. We'll have another date being announced soon. And I went down there to turn people away. 2 people turned up.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, the power of that database. It operates because we'd send them a flyer saying, what's on, blah, 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 direct to their house. And the penny dropped. I thought, databases really work. So I took that knowledge into the music thing of club promotion. And when I first joined MCA, I spent the first 2 months just sitting in an office, putting the DJ database together of all the DJs around the country. And I would make them send photos in. So if they said they were a really cool DJ playing Eric B and LL Cool J and blah, 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 I'd look at the photo. There's no way you're playing that stuff. You could tell. Yeah, you're a wedding DJ, you could see. And it changed. Everybody started then, having record applications with the photos on. But from that 2 months, our next 10 releases were all hits. And MCA Records hadn't had that because the database was strong. Strong. So once you've got that tight, everything would operate to the right people. All you had to do was have a flair of explaining how good the record was in a way that would make it sound attractive for them to play. Yeah, but we had some big records. Bobby Brown's Don't Be Cruel. Yeah. Every Little Step. My Prerogative. There was a huge New York record called Craze the Party. You'll know because it's been sampled over and over again. I want this party started right. Yeah. I want this party started quickly. Come on. Mm-hmm. We signed that from New York. Wow. And that's been sampled. So we had, of those 10 hits, it was Eric B and Rakim, Follow the Leader. Oh, it was great as well. Yeah, it was great. But the database did the job, making sure that we got to the right DJs with the right records. And I got poached by Motown from there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
To work at Motown. And Motown was great because I had 4 labels to work with, which was Motown, RCA, Arista, and a new label called Deconstruction. Mm-hmm. So with RCA, there was the Blow Monkeys, and they didn't have a lot of dance stuff on there. Motown, lots of soul and dance beats. Yeah. Arista had Whitney Houston and stuff like that, and Aretha Franklin when she was doing dance stuff. But Deconstruction, which was a new label, started having Italian house hits. One of them was Black Box, Right on Time. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love that song. My mom's obsessed with that, with Black Box, as you know.
6 weeks at number 1 in the UK chart. Yeah. So,
great groove.
Arista had Lisa Stansfield as well when she broke with All Around the World. And,
another one of my mother's favorite hits.
Yeah, This Is the Right Time, which I did remixes on both of those. Back in the MCA thing, I did a remix on Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel. Just because it got played in a meeting on a Monday morning, and the MD of the company was ferocious with people. If they didn't follow through with conviction, he would fire them. So you could have a job, come in for your job in the morning, and be gone by lunchtime. Wow! If he wasn't convinced by you. So we was in the Monday morning meeting where everybody attends, the head of press, sales, promotions, blah blah blah, A&R, and everybody's in this office, probably about the same size as this room. And he's sitting at the end of the table, his big long table, and he said, "Right, we've got this artist Bobby Brown to work with from America, from the MCA label in the States, because they were the governor of MCA England. What do you lot think of this song, Don't Be Cruel? And I put my hands up and said, I don't think it's going to work here. And the sea parted. The sea of people parted. So he's looking at me at the end of the room. Why not? I said, because the bridge is in the wrong place. It needs a different beat on it to actually work here in this country, I believe. I said, all right, we'll go to New York and fix it then.
Wow.
So next thing I knew, I was on a plane. Not that day, a couple of days later, I was on a plane to New York and working in a studio for the very first time ever with a guy called Timmy Regisford, who was a big New York DJ and a keyboard player programmer called Boyd Jarvis. And we were in a studio next door to Studio 54 downstairs.
Oh, wow.
The night before, Duran Duran had been in there. So we were given one night to turn this mix around.
Oh, no pressure.
No, and I didn't know what I was doing. I could, I look at the mixing desk and think, this is all foreign to me. But I was able to communicate with Timmy and Boyd Jarvis. So this section here, the angelic choral bit, should really be at the front, so it gives it a distinctive intro. And we should change the bass line and the drums so it hits harder. Not as a house record, but more as an R&B, but with more of a thump to it. So we did that, came back to England, and next thing I know, Radio 1 are playing it.
Wow.
And I'm working inside the office, and someone says, hey, Radio 1's playing your mix. And it was a hit. And then that gave them the confidence to let me run with whatever it was I wanted to do for a while, until Motown called. Because back in the day when I was a kid, I was, listening to all the Motown 7-inches. That was my favourite artists at those times were the Four Tops, Temptation, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life album, I think it's one of the greatest albums of all time. For a blind artist to be able to express himself across all those levels of songs, you think, you know what it's like to walk down a girlfriend's path to her house because she's broken up with him and he's got to collect his stuff from her house,
Totally.
And I thought, it's in the song Ordinary Pain. And I'm thinking, how does he know that? Because we'd know.
Yeah.
Because we got sight.
Sure.
But he was able to put that into a song, and brilliant. So the call from Motown was a must-have. Got to go there.
Yeah.
So I went through a sequence of different labels in the UK in the end, and had a really big label with Mercury, allowed me to start my own label there, which was called Manifesto. Which there was a big headline in a newspaper one day about the government. Tony Blair's Manifesto for England. Right, and I thought, that's a great name for a label. Because I looked it up and it says, your intent. Manifesto, your manifesto is your intent, your policy. Well, that's a great name for a label because the intent, the policy will be to release all kinds of music, but good music. So it could be chill out, could be R&B, could be house, could be rap, could be all, right across the trance, right across the spectrum. Because some labels in those days were getting stuck in a sound. I won't mention any particular names per se, but they got known for putting out trance records, and this label got known for putting out house records. So if they moved out of that lane, people went, "What are they doing?"
Yeah, right.
They're supposed to be a house label.
Nightclubs here had the same problem.
Yeah, I didn't want to get trapped in that.
Yeah.
So we called it Manifesto, and our first 14 releases were all hits. But it started with Donna Summer, I Feel Love. And there's a story behind that. I got called to a meeting in New York with Baz Hartong, who was head of international, and Bruce Carbone, who was dance A&R guy there. And they were going to release this Donna Summer compilation called Endless Summer. And they wanted support from England as well. So I had to go over there and sit and talk with them. I said, can we do some remixes of any of the stuff, any of her hits? No, all of her big songs, the multi-tracks have been burnt in a fire. They got lost in a fire in LA at the Casablanca label. I said, what? I Feel Love? They went, yeah. I said, surely George Moroder's still got a copy. They said he's not letting it out of his hands. Because the copy that was given to Casablanca got burnt, so he's not letting the master out. And I said to him, okay. I'd been doing quite a bit of studio work those times, doing remixes for people. And I said, well, she's not really singing a song. It's a chant. Ooh, I feel love. I feel love. She's not singing a typical verse, bridge, chorus, blah, blah, blah structure of a song. It's kind of a chanting song, right? You've got a TV track that, the instrumental of the original thing, haven't you, somewhere? Yeah, we got that on a DAT tape. Well, get her back in the studio then and get her just to revocal the parts. Put the DAT on, so she's got one headphone, got the headphones on with the instrumental, and just get her to re-sing it. So they did. Oh, it's a good idea. So they got her to re-sing it, and then sent the DAT tapes over with her vocals on, the new vocals, 95. We got that remixed by a guy called Rollo. That became the number one club record of the year in England.
Wow.
That mix. And it launched the label. It was our first hit. Our first release was the first hit at the bag. We had a hit record. And
that's incredible.
From then on, we just rolled, Sometimes you're in a place where you're meant to be. The wheels are turning for you. You're in there at the right time. And you've just got to apply common sense and your knowledge. It's like you with this store. You're in the right place at the right time now because everything's live. Mm-hmm. Why is everything live? It's maybe a topic for later. But music now is all ones and zeros in terms of what they're receiving through Spotify and Apple and, the way it's recorded. It's all ones and zeros. So it's missing their heartbeat. Whereas the live stuff, they can see the guy playing, drummer playing, the bass player. They can see the guy singing. They're not being delivered ones and zeros. They've been being delivered a performance.
Yeah.
So it connects to this. How I feel about melody and the human soul. Mm-hmm. It connects to them spiritually. So it's not a computer playing a song. So why did I get onto that?
Well, you were talking about Manifesto. I mean, I owned a ton of Manifesto records. And I had no idea who you even were at that point.
Yeah, I started.
We met many, many, many years later, over a decade later. And it's funny because like I said, when I was looking up a bunch of the songs from the Wikipedia, I was like, literally almost every one of the songs that's listed on there, I had on 12-inch.
Right. And
I played either on 12-inch or CD as a DJ.
Yeah.
Right. Josh Wink, Higher State of Consciousness, Gusto Disco's Revenge is listed on there. Todd Terry, Keep on Jumping. That track was phenomenal.
Again, there was a bit of tactician stuff going on, Pete Tong, who I managed at the time for 20 years in the end, used to receive every dance record first before anybody in the country because he had a Radio 1 show.
Right.
So the white labels or the acetates, acetate being a test pressing cut as an individual one only, he used to receive everything first. So if he heard something that he thought, wow, this is good, he heard it before anybody else. So he could then license that if it was from an independent place to FFRR London Records. So they were always winning because he was getting the information really early, so early that other people hadn't heard it, apart from the producer and the artist. So when I set up Manifesto, I asked a DJ who was working on Kiss FM London called Judge Jules.
Oh, yeah.
He said, come talk to me. I said, you're getting a lot of promos, aren't you? Acetates and white labels. Because he was doing 2 shows a week on Kiss, Friday and a Saturday, I think. He had this thing called Judge and a Jury. We'd have a panel of people come in, and he would play new records, and the jury would vote whether the record was any
really?
good. Yeah, he was a clever boy.
Cool. Yeah, that's creative.
So I said to him, "You're probably getting the record second to Tong in this country. He probably gets them slightly before you, but you're getting them next, and he hasn't got time to listen to them all. So I want you to come and work with me at Manifesto and be my ears for there as well. I've got my own ears for the things I want to do, but to have that ammunition where the music's coming to us early because they want you to play it on your Kiss show will give us an advantage." And it did. So it was Jules and myself together.
Sure.
And we had this agreement that if we had to both agree on signing a record or we wouldn't sign it. We both said yes, the in. If one of us said, well, I'm not sure about this. And sometimes we made a mistake with that, but in general, it worked. The policy worked. And Jules was an active DJ out at night, probably DJing 5 nights a week.
Wow.
So he would come in and go, oh my God, I dropped this the other night. It went off. We've got to have this. Or this mix isn't working properly on this one. We need to have a rethink about, before we send it out to the DJs, maybe get it edited or get another mix done. So there was a lot of science behind it as well, not just signing records and pushing them out there.
Sure.
He was, a good friend today. He's called Judge because he passed the law bar before he was a DJ.
Oh, really?
So and when he finished DJing or finished working for record companies, he became a lawyer again. He took the bar again. He's now a lawyer.
So he's a lawyer now?
Yeah, fully.
Oh, really?
Working for a company. Great guy though as well.
Is he in England still?
Yeah, in London. Yeah. So the combination of the two of us worked really well. But the biggest success for that particular label was signing the Café Del Mar series.
Oh yeah, you talked to me about this.
Yeah, because you have to make money when you run a label, because you could sign a 12-inch and get a load of remixes done on it and put it out. But you spent so much money, like Dave Morales in those days would charge 25 grand for a remix. So you've got to sell some records to get your money back.
Yep.
So you had to balance it up by having artists that were album artists that would sell big numbers. And I was running the Essential Mix then for Radio 1. I'd gone to Ibiza, think about doing a live broadcast from there with the Essential Mix. And gone to the Café Del Mar, got talking to the DJ there, a guy called Jose Padilla. And he gave me a tape of that night's performance because he would record it there. And his thing was watching the sunset come down right in front of him on the sea there. As soon as it dipped on the horizon, he would stop the music and everybody that was on the beach would get up and clap facing the sun.
Wow.
Which now disappeared. Hippies, grandparents, kids, mums and dads, young people would all sit on that beach and on the rocks watching the sun go down to Jose's music, because he would be playing really eclectic stuff. It could be classical, it could be drum and bass, it could be anything, but it fitted the motion of the sun.
Wow.
And there was an emotional exchange between people getting up afterwards and saying, like almost saying, "Thank you for the day, son." And then they would go home, have their dinners and go out, whatever they were doing. So it seemed logical to me to get that as a compilation. It had already been released in England by a small label, but they only had it for the UK. They could only sell it in the UK. They could export it, but they could only license the tracks as a UK-only album. React Records, James Horrocks. But it was coming up as a deal to be renewed, so I got it for the world. So Universal had that album for the world. We sold 15 million copies.
Wow.
But it was a fight, because originally when I went in to sign it, the guy who ran the compilation division of Universal was a proper department. They were putting out all kinds of stuff, compilation CDs for the record stores. And he said, "I don't hear this project. I don't know any of the artists. There's no remixes. They're not number one songs. Why do you want to sign it?" Because I've witnessed what the people do when they listen to this music. It's a feeling. It's a, He said, "Well, I don't want it on my department, so it's up to you." And then I heard that Ministry of Sound were trying to come in for it, and I'd got my friend Jeff Young, who was previously a Radio 1 DJ, to manage Jose Padilla, the DJ in Café Del Mar, because Jeff was now not working at record companies and he wanted to set up a management company. And he come to me one day and said, "Ministry of Sound want this album, this Café Del Mar album." "No way. You're not taking it there, Jeff. It's coming here." So I had to go to my boss and say, "Look, if this goes to the Ministry of Sound, we'll regret it. If Brian Berg doesn't want it on the compilation division, great. I'll have it on Manifesto, so we can release it through my label." He went, "Okay, I can see you really want it." And it was a huge success.
Wow.
Many years later, I went back to Universal after I'd left Manifesto. Have a meeting with the CEO, a guy called Lucian Grange, who's now Sir Lucian Grange, head of Universal worldwide, based in LA. He was the CEO of Universal then for Europe. And I'd gone to see him about Kings of Spins, about having Universal Records promoted by us. And we're walking out of his office. He put his arm on my shoulder. He said, it was 2002, Cafe Del Mar sign. He said, incredible. What do you mean? He said, no videos, low royalties, no remixes. We made a fortune. Well done. You know?
Yeah, you had the vision though, right?
Yeah, but that's all it is in the beginning. You know, you go through life, you must have a vision with this store because it's so big and, you know, so many different departments. You can't walk in here looking down at your shoes. You've got to walk in here looking at the horizon thinking, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
What do I want to do with this? What's my vision for it long term? And then you keep walking towards that vision and it gets closer and then becomes a reality.
Absolutely.
That's my philosophy. It's the same with the Slammer back in those days. So, yeah, up to Manifesto.
And then you went to LA.
No, I started Neo Records.
Oh, okay. All right.
Neo. Now, Neo is the Latin word for new. I've been spending a lot of time in Naples with some DJs there and producers there making records and having hits with them as well. And I wanted to, I'd done the whole thing with a 3-year deal with Manifesto and I'd burnt the hours out, you know, working 9 in the morning till 2 in the morning in the studios. Lucky because I only had to walk to work. My home was very close to the office, so I could walk across the bridge to get there. But I fancied having a go on my own. It was a mistake in some ways because they offered me a huge deal to stay for another 2 years. But I had the independent bug in my head. I thought, no, I want to try and do my own thing. And one of those was signing Darude, Sandstorm, which was humongous.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Big project.
Yeah, that was good. Then.
And Veal's great.
Huh?
He's great.
He's a lovely lad.
Yeah. He's great.
We took him to Ibiza just before we released the song. And I met him the next day. He'd gone to Amnesia, the club, that night. Paul Van Dyke was playing there. And I saw him next day and I said, he said, I've not been to bed yet.
That doesn't surprise me.
Typical Ibiza. Yeah, I've not been to bed yet. And I said, how was it? He said, when he played it, I just sat on the floor and nearly cried. Because the place went bonkers. There's this little lad from a village in Finland, in the middle of Finland somewhere, seeing his creation just tear the roof off of this venue, you know, with probably 3,000 people in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Unreal. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And he's still out there now. Still out DJing now. He hates Sandstorm. I say hate. You know, he likes to try and avoid it. Because I think he's heard it too often.
Yeah. Well, that's how it gets with a lot of artists.
Yeah, it's like being asked to tell the same joke over and over again.
Totally.
You know, as a comedian. So what did you say before that? I said Neo and you said what?
LA.
LA, yes, yeah. So LA.
The hat you're wearing.
The hat I have on, yes. I was called into a meeting in New York of the heads of dance labels in 2002 about the war of technology, which was Napster at the time, and music, that people were downloading all their stuff. And for some reason, I was the only one from Europe that was representing there. And I did a bit of research before I went, and I sat in this room, closed room session, being run by Michael Poletto that did Billboard in those days, that ran the Billboard dance column. And I'd gone in there and I said, well, I looked at the research of what was going on. I thought, well, the internet's taking over. And I made a statement in there. I said that if you don't get online with your labels and be prepared to dance with the internet, it's going to be over for you because it's coming out of the stores and everything's going online. Yeah, it's Napster, but it doesn't mean that you can't have your online label. And if you keep the emails of the people that want to buy your records, you have a database. Going back to what we said earlier.
Sure.
The importance of having your own database so you know who your buyers are. So you can then go, well, we just released a record 6 months ago that was a hit. Here's a new one from that same artist. And you talk directly to the people that bought the first one rather than hope the guy in the store racks it up properly in the shelves.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Or doesn't put the next release in front of it.
You know, or says, I don't really want it. Or, yes, I'll have 10 of them, but I'm only paying for 2 of them. The other 8 are going to be free, which was going on.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. So, you had 3-in-1 deals happening all the time where you give the guy free records, but 2 of them are free. As in, he's not paying for them. So then he'll take 12 of them because it's the bulk of the order he's getting for free. He'll sell them then because he's getting 100% profit.
Right.
So all those shenanigans going on. And I said in this room, it's get online and dance or it's over for you. And I just had a meeting with Strictly Rhythm then and realized that they were going broke. And they owed us a lot of money. I'm talking $750,000.
Wow.
Because of the success of signing Darude to them. So I was getting back on the plane from that meeting in September 2002, realizing I was going to have to close Neo down because we couldn't swallow. You imagine somebody owes you $750,000.
Oh, yes.
And they're not going to pay you. You're not getting that money. What that does to the business of your building here.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Incredible.
It would almost wipe it out, maybe, maybe not, hopefully. But it would cause a serious dent in your end of year, profits and losses. So that took us out. And they had sub-licensed Darude to Warner's. So I'm walking around New York in the record stores, Tower Records, and Darude Sandstorm albums racked up everywhere. We're not going to see 1 cent of those sales.
Wow.
Because it's been sub-licensed and the company that licensed it from us, Strictly, were going out of business. So I got on the plane back to London and thought, well, 1, I've got to close Neo down. 2, I need a new gig. And I started to think about what I'd said in that room about dancing online with the internet. And I come up with an idea of a promotion company that would service in music online to people. So instead of sending out a CD or a 12-inch, you would send out an MP3 direct to their email, and you'd have built a website where the feedback was coming back instantly. Because back in those days, you'd have to wait a week, sometimes longer, 3 weeks before someone actually played the record and wrote back and said, oh yeah, it's not bad.
I was one of those people.
Yes, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Thinking, great. So, you sent out 1,000 records and you've got to wait 6 weeks to get any kind of real consensus of what it's going to do.
Yeah, which you couldn't do in today's world. 6 weeks is forever.
Useless. Yeah. And so you couldn't plan. And you couldn't tell a true story about how the record was being responded to around the country. But I thought online, if we get the DJs responding online, we'll know in 24 hours where we are with their feedback, because that feedback will come in instantaneously. They can't download the track until they put in their feedback, which comes to us automatically. At the time, there was a girlfriend of a friend was living with Seal, the singer. We was having lunch with him, and I explained to him what I was trying to do with this new digital invention thing, online DJ promo thing. He said, that's funny. He said, because my A&R guy from New York, Jimmy Dixon, has just been poached from Warner's to go and work at a company called Apple in Cupertino. They're setting up a music thing. And he said, here's his telephone number. See what they're up to. So I called him. Still gave me your number, dropping names. That you've gone to Apple. He said, oh yeah, we're setting up iTunes. Okay, so can I come over and explain to you what I'm setting up in England as a digital platform? He said, yeah, I can give you 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Cocky. I thought, I'll take it. I said, okay, give me a date and a time. Did that. So I flew over, landed in San Jose and drove to Cupertino. Took the wrong turn off the freeway, so I had to come back around again. So I was 10 minutes late. So I was going to get 5 minutes. But he took me into the Apple building And I explained to him what we were doing with the digital promotion service, which originally was called DJ in the Mix. And he said, yeah, we like that. We'll give you the iTunes program to load onto your site so that all the DJs that sign in can download the iTunes platform as a music platform.
Right.
So we had that first, and then we launched 4th of July 2003 on American Independence Day. So now, we've gone past the 4th of July 2023. Kings is DJ in the Mix is now called Kings of Spins. It's over 20 years old.
Wow.
We've worked thousands of records. So that brought us right up to date.
Perfect. And here you are in London.
And here I am in London, Canada. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, there's so many, again, 2 degrees of separation, right? Like there's so many parts of that story that, is crazy. Like I was in Cupertino with Lena, we were down there in that area. I didn't get to meet anybody from Apple, mind you, but there's all kinds of interesting ways where, people that we both worked with in the past, our paths have crossed. Like I met Veel Darude in Amsterdam, mm-hmm. ADE, but I had worked with them when back in 2003, I think it was. When was that track released?
2000, I think.
2000?
Yeah, but it was cooking for ages.
Yeah, so we worked with him at a club here in town, and we did the show, and,
right.
And he came out, and I'll never forget it because he had all this. Because I expected, at that point, DJs were coming in and they had, 2 turntables and a mixer, but he didn't. He had a keyboard and he had all kinds of. So it reminded me of like in the 90s when in Toronto we used to do these things called live PA sets. It was called live PA as we called it, and it was guys would set up drum machines and sequencers and they would play everything live. And there's some guys that do it to this day, right? From the Europe and stuff. But that was the first time I had seen like a DJ perform as an artist,
right,
in this town. Before that, it hadn't happened. Like we work with Naughty by Nature and a whole bunch of other hip hop acts and stuff around that same time, and they all had just Run DMC, same thing, Raw Bass, DJ Easy Rock. They all had 2 turntables and a mixer.
Yeah,
right. So here Darude rolls in
with a sequencer
with all his gear and his keyboard, and we're like, wow, okay, cool. And he performed the song.
Yeah,
right. It was interesting. It was cool.
The Sandstorm Journey was an interesting one itself. I'd been in Scotland at Glasgow University explaining the difference between the analog age and the digital age to Glasgow University, invited by a BBC thing called Music Works to come up and speak up there. And I was telling the story about where melody comes from, where rhythm comes from. And I divided this hall into 2. So this section of the hall was rhythm and this section over here was melody. And I said, right, you guys over here start whistle while you work. And you guys over here, clap your hands. So in seconds, they're all in sequence. Amazing. I said, because your melody, your rhythm. And I asked someone to walk towards me to the stage and said, right, to prove that you're an embodiment of rhythm, try and walk towards me out of your chair to the stage, 3 left legs, and then one. Then you can use your right leg. So he's stumbling one of the left leg, and then the right. He said, I can't. I said, no, because you have to walk in rhythm. And I got back from London. I got back from Glasgow to London, and one of my A&R guys, a guy called Alex Anderson, said, listen to this. He'd got a little sample of Sandstorm. I said, that's funny. It's pure digital energy, that is. I've just been talking about that in Scotland to those kids up there. What's the background? So blah, 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 blah. And we grabbed it and signed it. So we negotiated, got the signing done. And then about a week later, a DJ called Paul Duquesne was on a boat going from Sweden to Finland to an island called Åland. It was a summer thing, but they all got on the boat and danced to music. And he phoned and said, there's this record I played. The boat just went crazy. He said, it's called Sandstorm. I said, yeah, I've already got it. I said, no way. Yeah, we've already signed it for the world. He said, that's incredible. And there's 2 other stories I want to tell you on that. One is the power of that song or the track. England were playing Colombia in the World Cup and it was an open air festival going on in England, one of the big festivals. And they had, because it was an afternoon game, they put a huge big screen up and played the game for the music fans to see, because it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. So they're all sitting on the grass watching the football game, David Beckham, blah, 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 on the screen. And the venue next door was getting ready for the night. So they're putting the sound in there. And the person, once they got the sound together, the person who put the sound in decided to test the sound out. He put on a sandstorm. The people that were watching the football ran off that field into the venue and started dancing.
Wow.
Right? Just literally the place went whoop, dum. I just thought, this record is totally mad.
It was totally mad. I mean, it was a record that, as DJs, we would have to play 2 and 3 times a night.
Yeah, that brings me to the last story on that.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a Billboard conference in New York, and I'd done my pieces, so I was sitting at the back of the audience listening to other people talk about their topics, and there was a lot of radio guys that do dance shows. And one of them says, they were talking about something, he said, yeah, as long as I don't have to play that Sandstorm Jurney record. I sat down in my chair and thought, it's actually got to that point now where they're fed up with playing it.
It's like the Macarena. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But you know what? It's not, though, because in my opinion, I still listen to Sandstorm to this day.
I love it.
Yeah, I still think it's a great release. It's a great hit.
I often get sent memes from people. Check this out, and it'll be some crazy thing, a dog walking competition, and the dogs will all be dancing, and someone's, blasting out Sandstorm. There's all kinds of stuff.
Has there been some recent remixes of it too?
Yeah, there has. Yeah,
yeah, because I hear a couple of DJ duos that are friends of mine that are touring right now. I've heard them play some remixes of it in the last year.
They play it in the hockey games as well, don't they? The ice hockey games. And I've heard it in the in the American football games. When a tie's gone down and up it comes.
Absolutely.
That track will get played for the next 50 years.
So let's get into one of the things I know you wanted to talk about was, why music's important to humans.
Most recently, I've been ruminating about the human race and why we're taught all kinds of things, geography, history, with the Battle of 1066, when 3,000 people got killed, thinking, yeah, that's all right. Okay. But why are we not all taught a common language? So the guy from Finland or Albania or Portugal, everybody has 2 languages. They have their native language, Argentinian, Spanish, and they have another language. Just this, for ease of purpose, let's call it English, right? So everybody from birth gets taught 2 languages. So no matter where they are in the world, they can communicate and get a job somewhere or have a relationship with somebody or make friends.
Sure.
But they've got another language they can communicate with. So, in answer to what your questions, to me, melody is our first language because, you've got 2 girls now. And the youngest one's 3 months old?
4 months old, yeah.
Yeah. So you can't say to her, it's time for your bed now. What do you want to eat before you go to bed? She's going to go.
Probably smile at me, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So you have to talk to the baby in a tone, like a la 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 la, to make them smile. Because if you growl at them, they're going to cry. They're going to be confused and they'll cry. So the world over, Eskimo mothers, Aboriginal mothers, Amazonian mothers, Spanish mothers, right, have to talk to their babies in tone. So the first language for a year, sometimes a year and a half, is melody. That's how we communicate with people, from them as melody. And that stays with them as a primal feeling. So many years later, when they hear a song, a piece of music they love, they go, oh my God, I love this record. And they touch their heart. Because it's not because they've got a memory of something. It's just that music is so strongly attached to their feelings. And they hear something and they'll say, oh my God, I love this piece of music. Hit their heart,
Totally.
Or this is my jam. I love this song. The relationship with melody for us, if an asteroid was coming down and was going to smash the world up, I think that, if we knew it was coming and we had 2 days left, that we'd gather and sing. Because what else have we got to do, right? There might be some looting going on at first. I want that Mona Lisa picture. Not much good it's going to be for you later. There'll be some craziness going on. But people would gather and hold hands and sing together because it's the first universal language. That applied to rhythm. The world spins at 6,000 miles per hour. If it goes faster, the tides will mess up. And so it stays in that rhythm. We got 24 hours a day, 60 minutes per hour, 60 seconds per minute, etc. Everything is based on rhythm and the understanding of mathematics even.
Yeah,
this room.
And geometrics and mathematics.
Yeah. If this room wasn't built in a proper sequence mathematically, it would fall down. The building would.
Yeah.
Recipes for cooking, everything. We are fundamental instruments of rhythm. We're sequenced in such a way where we got our arms where they are. We haven't got one arm here and then one down by our kneecap. Everything is symmetrically built in its mathematical model in rhythm.
Yeah.
And
we are vibrating right, all the time. We're basically, I don't remember what the stat is. We can look it up and post it, but there's our body is a super high percentage of water and vibration.
And everything in your body is functioning around rhythm. Yeah. Your heartbeat and everything. You see in rhythm. You don't see something instantly with both eyes. About the mic, right?
Okay.
You see it like that in rhythm. You hear things that way, and so rhythm and melody together make music. In my understanding of it all, and that's from nature.
Yeah. Well, some of the oldest, tribes in the world, that's what they do. They, like you said, they get together and they dance and they sing, and there's melody to it and there's rhythm to it.
Well, going back to the caveman days, or as you say, in the African tribes where we all came from, Africa, the African tribes would dance around the fire at night, chanting. They maybe have a bit of narcotic bark they pulled off a tree, getting stoned, chewing that, right?
Yeah.
But they're drumming and, singing a chant and a melody together. And that's in us.
Yeah.
That's in us right now to the very thing of going to festivals today is to go out and dance together and with music and be in a collective feeling like that.
And globally,
totally.
There's artists from, America or, even Canada here who are friends of mine, and they can go over to Germany. They can go to, China. They can go, the Asia market's exploding for DJs and dance music right now.
Right.
And I got artists that I know and even label owners and managers that I know that are telling me the artists there are exploding. But, a lot of times they don't know the words.
No.
They're not even singing the right words to the songs.
Last night, I listened to the new Beatles release, Now and Then, which is very poignant because it's got some vocals from John Lennon and they've got a guitarist to play in the style of George Harrison. So I listened to this song. It's a 4-minute journey, but very, very kind of sad, poignant. And that's their last release ever now, in 2003. Their first release was in 1962. But you think, if they were so globally huge, how did the Japanese understand, just picking one country, the lyrics of Penny Lane or Strawberry Fields? It wasn't the lyrics they got. It was the melody.
Yeah.
Because their melodies were uniquely different on every song. Penny Lane, da 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 da, and that would be completely different to Lady Madonna, children at your feet. Da, 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 da. So internationally, their audience first took their songs in through the melody delivery and then got to learn the songs, probably, singing the wrong things in certain places. But they embraced that,
Remember the dinner we had with you? I think I say you were talking about that, right? Yeah. About living in Argentina and, there's, Coldplay or whoever, selling out 12 nights in a row. people singing the words, and half the words weren't half the words. They're not singing right, but they're rocking out.
Yeah.
You know,
the Rolling Stones are huge in Argentina.
Yeah.
And it's famous for them singing the wrong lyrics.
Yeah, totally.
Because they've got their own interpretation of what this song, you know.
But they're all there and they're all in that energy together.
Yeah.
You know? It's great.
So we're in a good place, I believe, now, because in a sense, the live scene is, people want to go to the live scene. It's a shame the clubs are pretty much closed down around the world, because that energy was great for introducing new artists. But there are so many festivals now, and the lineups in the festivals, you know, like 40 people being presented there or playing there, but all over the place, and all different kinds of festivals. You know, we went to the folk thing here in London. It was like, wow, the lineup of artists here.
Yeah.
So the live scene's great, and you know, so music and melody and all that stuff is still rolling on. It's still an important part, very important part of people's lives. I'd say probably more important now than in many ways than ever before. You know, you have times where the disco era was really important because it was after the Vietnamese conflict. So disco started to really come through around the end of the Vietnamese War. And that was such, the scenes of that confrontation were so ugly, with girls running down the street with all their clothes burning off of them with napalm, you know, and that was a front page image in all the world's newspapers. So people turned to music to switch off away from the horrors of seeing all that imagery. And we're kind of back in that place again. You know, I mentioned about the asteroid earlier. You know, I think we're in potentially a global conflict in the Middle East with what's going on over there.
Yeah.
But people will turn to music to soothe themselves. You know, if you listen to a lot of disco songs, they're actually black empowerment songs. They can be interpreted completely another way, right? Chaka Khan's Ain't Nobody Does It Better. Yeah, that could be singing about her boyfriend, but she could also be singing about God, right? Mm-hmm. And Ain't No Stopping Us Now, which is a classic old disco record. You know, we're on the move. That means our race of people, are rising through the barriers that are put on us, and there ain't no stopping us now. And a lot of songs from that period, when you really listen to them, can be interpreted that way, as an empowerment song.
I think we need more of that again, but I think we need it as a way to connect people again and take all those divisive barriers down. You know,
mm-hmm.
we need, you know.
Let's talk about the world now, shall we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know, there's talk about going to Mars, living on places like that. This planet is 4.5 billion years old. It's 4.5 billion years in development. It is what it is now because it's grown into that, right? So is the moon. So is Mars. It is what it is, and it's been there billions of years. Planet Earth, I don't think there's another planet in the solar system anything like it. I don't think they'll ever find one. You know, where you can take an apple from a tree and it's got a distinct taste. You take a banana, it's got that taste. A peach has got that taste. A strawberry from the field, it's got that taste. It's the beauty of what we grow here on Earth. It's unattainable anywhere else. And then you got the whole procreation thing of, you know, making new babies and love and stuff. And nature, there's nothing like planet Earth anywhere in the world. I believe very strongly that we start life with two miracles. We each individually, you, I, as is, start with two miracles. The first one being we're on this planet because this planet is a miracle. End of story, right? The second miracle, which is a little bit naughty here, our sperm hit the egg.
Yeah, right. Out of all the ones that could have happened.
Not the other sperm, because that could have been a girl. So I'm here because my sperm hit the egg. So that's a miracle in amongst maybe there's, let's say there's 300 sperms trying to battle to get into that egg. My sperm made it. Your sperm made it. Your sperm made it. It's a miracle. So we start life with two miracles. One is we're on this planet, and two, we are alive. We get that chance to be born. The third miracle is what we do with it, what we do with life, and we're not going to go and live on Mars. It's not going to happen. They'll try, but they really should try to make it work here. The conflicts in the Middle East, I don't want to simplify it, but that's man-made. It's not woman-made. It's man-made. And the terrible thing out there now is that we haven't learned anything. Where kids are being killed, children are being killed, old people are being killed, women are being killed indiscriminately.
Yeah.
Right? The same as they were in the Second World War. There used to be a thing in wars that they were going to have a battle, right? You have your battle over there, but you leave the village alone. The people in the village are not involved in the battle, so you don't come killing them. Now that's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
They're just blowing up towns, and whoever's in the village or the building at the time goes with it. So we've lost something in humanity that we can allow that to happen. Whoever side's doing it, it doesn't matter. They're still doing the one thing. They're murdering innocent humans, whether it be whatever religion they are. And when you come out, you hit the egg. You come out as a baby. You don't come out as, here's Ryan, the Catholic religious baby. No, here's Ryan.
Yeah, right.
The Catholic stuff comes later.
Yeah.
Here's Joshua.
Well, and you don't choose a lot of that either, right? Like, you're born into a family in a certain country, in a certain religion. You're born into that. You don't choose that as a 1-year-old, right?
Here's Abdul, the Muslim baby. Here's Joshua, the Jewish baby. No, here's Joshua. Here's Abdul. The rest of it is all made up afterwards. And we make it so much harder to live together by the things that we add on that potentially, aren't real. I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to Bethlehem. I've been to the place where they say Jesus was born and they point to it in the corner. We're into sound, you and I, okay? Mm-hmm. As is, into sound. Right now, let's just say 50 million people are praying, but all at different times, in different languages. So what's going up there?
Chaos.
White noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Undecipherable noise. No one can hear or break down what's being said if there is a someone, I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a biologist, chemist, scientist. And he explains that we are part of the universe because we came down from stardust, and the proteins of the stardust went into the ocean, into the waters, and that we eventually came out of the waters as a species as half fish, half man, or human, or before humans there were Homo sapiens. Yeah, and there's something before the Neanderthals.
Yes, the Neanderthals.
So, we come from water. We come from the water, but that is the DNA and the proteins are found in the dust they find in space, and they bring it back. The body parts of human beings, not the body parts like arms and legs, but the makeup bits, come from the stardust that brings itself down to Earth. So, what does that got to do with anything? It's nothing to do with some white guy with a beard upstairs who's going to work 6 days a week and take the 7th day off.
Yeah, right.
Right? Whose name was only mentioned in the German language in like the 3rd century. Jesus never said the name God. He said, my Father. So when people say, Jesus said, God said this, we will no. He hadn't had a name then. He said his Father, And I'm not trying to be negative here, but, the Bible's written by 20 people. And if you know the game of Chinese whispers, where the first person says green is red and whispers it to the next person, by the time it gets to the 20th person, Freddie's dead. because it's all been confused down the line. You know, it's gone from green is red to Freddie's dead because there's 20 people in the line, and it's the same as the Bible. They all got their input in there as to what's going on, and that we should run our lives from something that's over 2,000 years ago when they weren't brushing their teeth.
Well, I think like to add to what you're saying, I think there's a reason why, like, I deal with churches all the time because I install sound systems there. And I'm seeing a lot of churches having to get together, like merge, you know, and churches are being turned into homes. They're being turned into live music venues, stores. Why? You know, because young people aren't attending, and certainly not in the numbers that my grandparents did.
No.
And there's lots of reasons for that. But I mean, the biggest thing is that there's a disconnect, right? And there's many disconnects, obviously, but there's a disconnect that young people don't really understand. Don't especially, and I can only speak from a Canadian perspective because I've grown up here as a kid. Is that young people, you know, from my generation anyway, myself personally, you know, there's a conflict between, you know, because what we've grown up in, and again, we didn't choose the religion that we were in, but you know, it's interesting. We look at it and go, yeah, you know, as we're getting taught this stuff, these are teachings, okay. And as you get older and you get to be my age, you realize that these are biblical. Like it's not necessarily meant to all be taken literally, right? But when you're young, right, and you're trying to get young people into a religion or into church or into get behind any of it, it's difficult because, you know, it's hard to follow. It's hard to believe. There's all kinds of issues with it for young people. But young people, they see other things that they get tribal around, right? And I mean, remember when you interviewed Matt Adele at my CDJ show, right? He said, you know, people used to get tribal around music. Yeah. Hence, you know, the disco era you're talking about. People were tribal. You know, you told me yourself earlier, you're like, you know, you would get these records from people and you would study them, right? And that was actually surprising to me because, like, I've never heard of that where someone studies a record. But that's when Matt said that, I was like, yeah, you know, people used to get tribal around music. And he said now, and this was back in 2016 when he said this, but you know, at that time, people were getting tribal, he said, around social networks. And I think that's totally true, especially in 2016. And now what we're seeing is another shift, right? We're seeing another shift slightly away from social networks in a sense, because now social networks like the media, you know, are sort of, you know, becoming a bit controlled, right? And let's face it, I mean, you know, music in the heyday that you were talking about was adopted by people who were certainly getting tribal around it, but also rebels, right?
And they were suffering as well at the time.
Yeah, but they were rebels. You know, rock and roll is rebel music.
Totally, yeah.
Right? So, you know, and I think social media was the same. You know, it wasn't the news. You know, when I was young, I used to go visit my grandparents like 8 hours north of here, and every single night my grandfather would turn on the news. Right. Every single night.
And believe what he was
and listen
told.
to, you know, Walter Cronkite or whoever it was.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's where he got his information. But now it's unbelievable what we have access to from a music perspective, from a news and information perspective. And like you said, databases. I mean, social media is just another form of a database that we all have exponential access to, right? So, I mean, things are changing right now today, never mind. I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, 5, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be insane. But it you know, today, right now, things are changing. People, even from 2016, when Matt said that to now, at that time, people were getting tribal around social
7
networks.
years.
Yeah.
It's a rapid change.
Yeah, rapid.
2016 is almost, you know, unseeable to where we are now. To go back and think, wow, the world's so different.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my car once with my daughter, who was about 8, and she was going to a good school, and just her and I on our own. And she often used to come out with comments while we're driving. And you'll get this with Sophie one day. And she said, Dad, I don't believe in God. I'm concentrating while I'm driving. I said, you know what, Olivia? God is another word for good. Just good has another O. So as long as you're good, you're as close to any God anybody wants you to be close to. She went, okay, then I'll be good.
That's a great
end of conversation.
Yeah, that's a great thing to say as a father. That's great.
You know, but she got it. It was just be good, because the principles of the, you know, the tablets that Moses supposedly brought down, the principles are all there. Yes, don't eat people, don't take your friend's wife. The principles are all there.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we need to live in a cohesive way. I read a book recently called the Blue Tattoo, The Woman with the Blue Tattoo. And Olive Oatman, a girl, was kidnapped by some Red Indians in the end of the 18th century. And she ended up living with a tribe, got traded for beads and things, and she ended up living with the Mojave tribe. So I did some research into the Mojave tribe. They lived the same way for 1,000 years.
Wow.
The same customs. They would kill what they needed to kill just to feed the tribe. They would wash in the rivers. As soon as they were, you know, this is a bit off topic here, but as soon as they were 11, 12 and their sexuality was coming alive, they were persuaded, go out and enjoy yourself, right?
Yeah.
Go out and enjoy that. But they lived the same way for 1,000 years.
Yeah, that's
you
incredible.
think of and you try and find information about the Mojave tribe.
Well, and there's an important thing to talk about, which is, and we've talked about this before at the dinner we had a couple of weeks ago, is I talk about tribal knowledge, and how, and this relates to music, and I'll come swing back to music on it, but I talk about tribal knowledge and how I grew up being raised by my grandparents and my parents, and my dad was born in Belgium. He came here when he was 1. My grandparents came here. They didn't speak any English. And so I was raised by Europeans, and they had a really, really good work ethic, really hardworking, really tough people, came here with nothing and retired 20 some years later, and did well for themselves, but worked really, really, really hard, and taught that to me. And so there's a tribal knowledge in there. My grandmother used to sing and dance with me in the basement to some records. She would let me play with some of my dad's old Lego blocks, which helped me learn how to build things. She would let me watch how she makes the pancakes. And there's all of these little things that when I look back now, those were all things that she was passing down, right? And my thing is that, young people today, a lot of them anyway, because they have access to the internet and platforms like Google and social media, they don't value's the key word. They don't value that tribal knowledge, that knowledge that's been passed down generation after generation after generation.
They don't have the tribal foundation.
No. And something simple to put out there to suit, just my example is, for the young people listening is like, how many of you can cook a turkey? I bet you've been to turkey dinners, tons.
Peel potatoes even.
Sure. Right?
Yeah.
So, cook a good steak, but that's the thing is that like that's stuff that your family has learned and can easily be passed down. But people dismiss it. And then eventually the seniors of the family pass away and the knowledge is gone.
It gets lost.
And so part of the reason why, to circle back to music, part of the reason why I'm doing this show is to not only capture the stories so we don't lose the stories as people, pass away, but to also let people realize that the human element is a big deal, right? The experiences that we have as humans on the journey is a big deal. And we should share it with each other. And the people who we share it with should realize that there's a value to sharing in the journey.
It's like going back to what I said earlier. We start with 2 miracles. The third one we make ourselves. And we can make that third miracle if we get together and realize that this planet is an incredible thing. It's our home. We're going to survive as a species because we're learning that, we can take water from the ocean. We don't have to rely on the rainwater anymore. We can take it from the ocean.
Yeah, desalinization.
Yeah. Dubai has got a population of 3 million people. They've got 2 levels of desalinated water. One goes to the toilets, one goes to the showers. They don't drink it. They'll buy bottled water. And the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, I think the population there is 8 million, all desalinated water from the Persian Gulf. So it's there. They complain that the process is expensive. Well, they've got the sun. There's the energy with the solar panels to create that.
And we're working on that too.
Yeah, so we have to go there as a species. And I think we're at a crossroads now where we're letting go of the old ugly. You know, we're in this might be the last time that we see old ugly with what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East, that people pushing for wars and indiscriminately. That just gets me completely mad that they are indiscriminately killing children, and that there's no payback for that. There's no one saying it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or Arab, Muslim or whatever. You are killing babies. You are killing children. You have no right, legally or morally or spiritually,
from any
to
side,
take that young person's life by just dropping a bomb on a building they're in. You know, we should all be against that, because the Holocaust
could
was
be
awful,
here. It
right?
could be here. Right?
It could, they don't have permission to do that. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. You know, the Holocaust. I went to the Holocaust Museum in Tel Aviv, and you see you see photos from books, but they're wall size. You know, we haven't learned from those times that you can't take innocent lives like this and destroy them.
Well, part of that is what I just said, right? Look at the time. Look at the timeline. My grandparents were in World War II. Right? My grandmother was a child. My grandmother is 88 years old.
Right.
So I would argue that the majority of the people that went through that war are gone.
Yeah.
And so if the younger people of today, even people my age, if we didn't learn from them, listen to them, ask them, tell me about those times, tell me about what should have been done differently, so that even at the smallest scale, which would be us, right? I talk to people about this. I say, don't worry about trying to change the entire world at first, okay? Like if you do, that's great. And that's a miracle on its own. Right? But focus on yourself first, like putting the oxygen mask on yourself first in the plane, right? Focus on yourself, make yourself solid, great. Then go to your wife and your kids, right? Your closest family. Then go to your extended family. Then go to your neighborhood. Then go to your community, and so on and so on. But you have to make yourself solid and good. And part of that is understanding, having the perspective, right? Like we haven't learned because young people dismissed all of the knowledge and perspective that entire group of humans that went through an extreme tragedy already. We dismissed it. My grandfather, who was a veteran in World War II, he fought almost the entire war until he got injured and came home. And he became an alcoholic after that, right? Because the things that he saw were insane. And so it was so hard on him that as young children, he would never talk about it. Now, he passed away in 99, before the millennium. And nowadays, I go back up there where my mom's from. I drive up there with my cousin, and we pass by the graveyard. And every single time we stop every time and honor him and my grandmother, and we say hi, and we talk about it now as old, when we're older, as men, and we say, you know what? How much would I love to be able to talk to him as a man and hear those stories and that perspective.
His lessons.
Yes. So for anybody who's listening, if you have that opportunity, never mind World War II. I mean, talk to your family, especially if you haven't talked to them in years for whatever reason. You got to connect, and you got to share the journey and share the stories and share the perspective. It's the only way the world heals.
It will. I do believe in the potential of the human being. Everything is so transparent now. You can't cough in Chicago and someone knows about it. Oh, just do it on social media. They've coughed, right? The world is so transparent now. It's just applying the knowledge of the future and letting go of all these guys that are involved in this situation. Biden, Netanyahu, Putin, they're all old guys. They're from another world, another era. So, and they permit this to go on and fund it even, and not taking sides. I've always felt, and I can be shot down for this, that women should run the world.
We'd have a lot more empathy.
Yeah, because where do we come from? We all come from women, right? That they should run. They are the mother, literally the Mother Earth, and that they should run the world, not the men. Because men, boys want to fight. It's in their kind of DNA in a way. But I do believe we'll get there.
Well, I think everybody should have a say. I think the world should be run like a good run house.
Yeah, but
No, but I know what you mean.
Look, the two biggest companies in the world, the two most profitable companies are
the two most profitable companies.
Yeah.
Amazon
and
Apple.
Yeah. They don't change their board of directors every 5 years.
No.
And the new board of directors comes and says, we don't want these iPads. Let's make something else. That's rubbish from the other lot, right? It's the same board of directors that are steering those companies forward.
Right.
Every time you have a different political party come in, they throw out the previous party's manifesto, right?
There you go.
And and all that money and all that progress has gone down the toilet, and they want to start a new one and drag people's attention into something new. The idea of running a country with competing parties doesn't work. You put the best person in the best jobs. And if they're not doing their job, you take them out. So you put the guy who's got the most medical knowledge is the head of health. The guy who's got the best financial brain is the head of the finance of the country. And he has a team underneath him, right? Not this party comes in, this party goes out. It's like the one thing I see now, whenever they use the word democracy, I think, you idiot. Because you just told 50% of the country not to listen to you. Because they're not democratic. They don't want to hear the word democracy. If you said the word freedom, they go, yeah, I want freedom. You've got everybody wanting freedom, The ideologies don't work. But living as humans has to work. So if you employed the best people and put them in the best jobs, Argentina's in a mess now, right? England's in a total mess. England is becoming a third world country.
Wow.
Because they're still living with a royal family that aren't really the royal family. They shouldn't be there by birth. They're German, right? And we can go deep into it. I saw some Canadian money the other day with the Queen's head on it, and I'm thinking, it's mad. It's so pressurized, and I can't think of the word right now, when you force it onto people.
Yeah.
So you've got their pictures on the money. He's got his own army. He has 2 coronations. And if you're naughty, you'll go to one of his prisons. His Majesty's blah, blah, blah prison.
Sure.
Right? And yet, they're not ordained. They're not picked there by a vote or something. They own, I've got to be careful here, they own 19,500 square miles of coastline. They own the complete UK coastline. They own 31% of the land in the country.
Wow.
One family.
That's wild.
What are they
I didn't know that.
What are they contributing? All the wind farm energy that's going on the coastline goes to them, goes to the royal purse. You've got, the population of England is, I think, 79 million. You've got 7.9 million people at the moment on the waiting list for the national health. You've got 10% of the population cannot get into the hospital. And some of these are dying because they need to get in for a cancer treatment, et cetera, et cetera. So they're living in this archaic belief that this family should be head of state, who has his own army, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they own all this land. It's like, if an asteroid, as we said earlier, was coming down from space, is going to smash the Earth, he wouldn't go, if it was him, I'll avoid Buckingham Palace because the royal family lives there. We're all in it together.
Yeah. Well, like that, listen, that goes back to what I was just saying earlier, right? Like it comes down to, there's been a period of time through my parents' generation, even maybe arguably in my grandparents' generation towards the, the middle to tail end of theirs. And even now. But we're coming out of it, where people are looking outward, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I said it earlier, everybody, part of the biggest, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons why people suffer with mental health issues is because we're told that to think of yourself first is selfish, right? But I don't think so. Like I think it's contextual, right? Like I think that it's within context. I think that if you are suffering, whether it's mental health or physical health or whatever it is, you need to take care of your health. You need to take care of yourself, right? Nobody cares more about you than you, right? If you want to live on this planet, in this journey, at this time, then no one cares more about that than you. And you need to do what you need to do to get yourself fixed up. And then, as you, some of the people in our lives, when some people do look outward and they see some of these different people that go on to speak about their journey, about coming from nothing, or about being, me, 300 pounds and my journey. I mean, I inspired a pile of people when I did that, right? When I did my intermittent fasting and keto and all that, and I lost a bunch of weight, and people got totally inspired. And then I thought to myself at one point, me too. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you know what? I could become a coach of this thing. But then I realized that through trying to do that, I realized the amount of addiction that's in this world to certain things, right? Sugar being the one that I was in this particular, story. It was an addiction to sugar that people have, all forms of sugar, right? Natural ones, non-natural ones, but people are just addicted. And I'd get people on the journey, and then they fall off, because they're just some people are just that addicted. And so at the end of the day, we look outward all the time for a solution. We look for the pill, so to speak, or, to solve the problem, whereas a lot of times the beginning of the solution could be right here inside us, right? But you have to take time, turn the phone off, turn the laptop off, turn the TV off, sit in silence. You're born in silence, right? You should meditate, try it, yoga, whatever it is you got to do. Go sit on a beach somewhere and just listen to the ocean crash. I mean, take some time to yourself to reflect and to try and put yourself back together mentally, spiritually, physically, and that's where it starts. It starts there. It's a journey. It's a journey to get to where we all are now. I mean, you're obviously a little older than I am, but we've all been on this journey this long. My theory is that, we've gotten ourselves to this point, and it's taken as long as it has to get here. If we want to get better, it's going to take more time. But you have to start somewhere.
With yourself.
Yeah.
And if you take lessons from things, cigarettes, there isn't 1% of goodness in a cigarette. It causes illnesses, and it's highly addictive. But you can buy them anywhere.
Yeah.
Gas stations, shops, anywhere. Because they make money for somebody.
Go into a variety store and try to find something in that variety store that doesn't have sugar in it.
Yeah. So you got these two things, alcohol's another thing, but if it's wine, whatever, if you look at the cigarette phenomenon and realize it's just there to make money, and they know full well it's going to harm you once you're addicted to it. Years ago, Nestle, the milk company, took their Nestle milk into India and gave it free to the Indian families there with young babies. And once those babies had Nestle milk, they wouldn't go back on their mother's breast.
Right.
So then the village had to buy Nestle milk.
Right.
And that's just an extreme example of how corporate companies will get you addicted to their product for their own shareholding purpose. And that we have to grow out of it. And I think we will over a period of time, because they have to. We have to take energy from the sun. We have to take our water from the ocean, and live more sensibly with the supplies the earth is giving us. Like I said earlier, we start with 2 miracles. The third one is up to us.
Yeah.
We make a good miracle or we mess up.
Well, what we're both talking about is, and what I'm touching on when I say, we need to focus on ourselves is, you help to, that third miracle is creating the journey.
Yeah.
We're creators.
And
we
for
all
others
are.
around you, like you are with this building, with this company.
Yeah.
And the people that you help.
But I don't think people think about themselves as creators though.
No, because they need to be taught that. Let's go back to church for a second, right?
Sure.
I used to take Olivia to church because it was a kids' Sunday school thing there. And I would stand in the congregation and try and sing the songs. Now, me coming from a DJ world where I helped make records, blah, 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 blah. I was a music journalist for 10 years. I didn't mention that earlier, for a county paper, which is the biggest selling newspaper weekly paper in the country. So I'm in a church with music coming out of every pore of my body, right? I can't sing the songs because they're so awkwardly structured, right? And I was standing one day and think, if we were singing Ain't Nobody, this church would be full. There's 20 people in this massive, great big church, almost like a cathedral, which got burnt down recently. And there's 20 people in there. And he's doing his sermon, blah, blah. And I thought, if you change the music to songs that they can sing, like Ain't No Stopping Us Now. I go on to there's so many pop songs I could think of, but it's just not coming out of my head at the moment. But if they were singing, not the Bibles, not these hymns, but songs that relate to their lives now,
Well, remember I showed you that video?
Yeah.
YouTube video? Where they went to Harlem and they were in a church in Harlem.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen that video, look it up. Is where U2 goes to a church in Harlem because someone sent them a recording that the choir there had done of Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And U2 heard it and went there and acoustically, like Larry Mullen's just drumming on a conga, and it's an incredible experience, an incredible video to watch these people. I mean, at one point I showed you, the band stops and the whole crowd, the choir takes over.
Yeah.
And it's just magical.
And they sing. And what they're doing is the energy that's going between you, say you and I are standing together, your energy is going into me and mine's into you. We're not aware of that. It's like if Aziz was a performer, a singer on stage, and there's 1,000 people out here singing back to him, he can't get off the stage at the end of the show and go to bed.
Yeah,
because his body is so full of adrenaline being delivered to him from the audience.
Yeah.
The same way with a stand-up comedian, if he gets them roaring with laughter. The delivery of adrenaline is a real thing.
It is a
That's
real
why
thing.
they have to
I've
go.
experienced it as a performer.
All DJs do. That's why Paul McCartney is still playing, because he loves that fix of human energy that goes into him afterwards. Oh, that was a great show. But what it is I feel great. I'm so full of there's 90,000 people out there at Dodger Stadium, right?
Sure.
And I'm full of their energy. They just delivered it to me. That's the power of music.
Yeah. Well, they share in it with them.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
Right. It's a
and
shared
if
experience.
church was to turn and have songs that they can relate to, more people would do that and they would get their message across. It comes all the way back again to our first universal language, music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shared experience and shared energy. I remember I showed you that video, choir.
Yeah, I loved that.
Right?
Yeah.
Guys from Toronto.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Right? Incredible.
Because they're all singing together.
Yeah.
They're sharing the vibration of their adrenaline. Everything's all swimming around invisibly, but they're all getting a piece of it without having to take a drink of alcohol, a smoke of a cigarette, or popping a pill. They're getting a rush from their own humans around them.
Yeah.
One of the most phenomenal things I ever witnessed in my life was the Berlin Love Parade in the Tiergarten in Berlin. This huge wide road where the Nazis, Hitler would parade his armies, march goose-stepping up and down, right, to people with all the Nazi regalia. This is where this love parade was in 98. There's 1.8 million people there dancing.
Wow.
Finnish, Swedish, Italian, French, gay, lesbian, black, white, pink, right? Every size of body, every sexual gender, every religious person type there, Catholics, Jews, everything. What were they all doing, these 1.8 million people? They were dancing.
Yeah, they were dancing.
Right? To trucks of sound systems.
They were celebrating.
Yeah. in this very place, 50 years before that, it was hate, a parade of hate. And I stood there thinking, this is everything that we've ever wanted to have, is a collective gathering of humans enjoying music. Yeah, it's techno, you know.
Sure.
So, it's like, but they're playing to the masses, so they can't play la-di-da-di-da-di-da.
Yeah, you
It's
got to
have
stuff that's
it's got to have a
gets you
beat to
moving.
it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's there. It's possible.
Yeah. We got to get together again and, focus a little bit on ourselves, get ourselves up and going, get our families solid again. But that's what I'm saying. We got to stop looking out, stop looking to these people that are going to help us, all these solutions, these outward solutions. Now is our time to take back the power, right? Our own God, whatever you want to call it, the power that we have when we come here, we all have it. And it's the ability to create. And you can create a positive experience, positive journey, a positive influence on your kids, positive family environment, a positive work environment, a positive mental health. But it's work. Like, don't kid yourself. It's work. I've been, I'm, like I said, I'm not young. I'm not old. I'm getting up there now. But I've had enough experiences from a really, really young age in this industry to know that, there's a lot of addiction in this industry. There's a lot of addiction. And, we've lost some incredible souls to addiction.
It's purposely put there as well.
Yeah.
By somebody that's profiting out of it.
Yeah. So, for me, one of the things that I want to touch on, is the fact that we all are creators, and that the creators that choose to go into music, which, a lot of people that we know have. And I think that those people should get together. Now's the time. Get together, write music again, play live again, and don't worry about the fact that there's no clubs.
Encourage creativity.
In every way.
I keep coming back to the third miracle. The third miracle is us producing something.
Yeah.
That we use our life to create a miracle, right? Whether it be in the arts or science or as a doctor, you create your own miracle from there. And if we have that as an education, right? You're here, right? Make good of it now. Don't pick up a gun and go and shoot somebody. Make good of your life and share that goodness around.
Yeah.
So that other people can join in with you and help you, and you help them. Because, we've got the one planet. That's it. There isn't another planet Earth. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
But there isn't another one. You're not going to go and eat an apple on the moon.
No, you're not.
And they're not going to transport the human race to Mars. How many millions of years away is it? I don't know without looking at Google. But it's the impossible thing to transport the human race from here to there. And why? Start all the nonsense again.
So for all the people watching we got people watching from all over the world and from all walks of life, and from, one of the things I like to do is to try and inspire the creators out there, the young and the old, everyone, but a lot of the young, because, again, part of this show is to try and inspire and pass knowledge to the people who are going to create the music of tomorrow.
When I signed artists to the labels, like Mercury and stuff, I'd have a speech for them. I'd say, look at your career as a marathon runner and focus yourself. That's what you're going to do. You may not end up as the best marathon runner in the world, but you may end up as the best one in your city, the best one in your village. You've become best at what you do in your area, in your field. And that's an achievement. Not everybody can be the best in the world, but many people can be best of their road or best of their town or best of their city. Go out to achieve the best of what you do. So solutions going forward.
Yeah.
To live in tune with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And let the young creators come forward. Edwin Starr once said, war, what is it good for? That's still true. Absolutely nothing. And like you mentioned earlier, letting the creators loose with the good stuff,
Yeah, with the positive energy.
The thing we didn't talk about at all was artificial intelligence.
Yes, well, that's
a whole nother conversation.
That is, yeah.
And that's gonna change. That's gonna create its own madness, goodness and madness. It will make medicines that we've never heard of before, or that we don't have the capabilities of putting complex chemicals together, that will be life-saving. And on the other side, you know, you're going to have the negative side where there'll be lunatics that use artificial intelligence for the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have faith that the good will outweigh the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know, what we've got now is generations and generations of young people that have grown up with technology and they know nothing else.
That's right.
They don't know about reading books, you know? So they will fine-tune the world with their love of technology and how they embrace it into good things that are good for them.
Yeah.
With the knowledge, this food isn't good for me. These cigarettes tell me on the packet I shouldn't smoke these. And I shouldn't listen to that man that wants to put a wall around Mexico to stop Mexican people getting in, you know? They'll learn the good and the bad, I think. Well, I hope.
I think that just to touch quickly on what I said earlier in that breath with AI, you know, it took all this tribal knowledge to go away for someone like me to realize how valuable it is to the current young generation to want to preach it to people, saying, hey, while you still can, you know, absorb that knowledge. And I think the same can be said with AI, right? I mean, you said earlier how you mentioned to the labels, you need to digitize your label.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably another Eddie Gordon out there right now telling labels, hey, you need to get on this AI train. What I would say to all of it is, don't discount the human element, right? We're creating for other humans. We're not creating for the AI. We're creating, if anything, the AI is creating for us. But it's a tool. It's a tool that can be used for good or for evil, for positive or for negative by humans. Mm-hmm. But don't do what we've done. Don't forget the human element, right? What we talked about earlier, the getting together as humans, the connection, the energy. That's what gets forgotten when technology gets in the middle between two people or between groups of people. Right? Look at what we had with the pandemic, right? We had all this technology in between, right? Where people were live streaming their performances and that was a great way for people to stay mentally sane and connected. Mm-hmm. But what was the first thing that happened when everyone came out of their house? Everyone wanted to tour. Everyone wanted to go to live events again.
Yeah.
We're earning for that connection. So let's not make the same mistake we did in the last couple generations with this technology, right? Let's keep the human connection going and just use it simply as a tool for positive creation. But we as creators still have to connect with each other and make the time to connect with each other and be on the journey together and not let AI lead the journey. You know,
I keep coming back to, we start with two miracles. We create our own third. And to go out there and create your miracle, you yourself, you individually, whatever your area of expertise is, you know, if it's playing hockey or if it's cooking or whatever it is, that you create your miracle. And I'm not, you know, be a chef. I don't just mean cooking, but, and look out for your fellow humans in a sense of not letting them be dragged down a path that's obviously detrimental to their future lives. We have the knowledge now. We can't say we don't know how to read.
Yeah.
We don't know how to listen. You know, I mentioned earlier about if we had a universal language that we started with, well, we do now. It's called artificial intelligence. When they make a medicine with artificial intelligence, the code, years ago, the ingredients of that medicine, to get that medicine around 200 other countries, would take 20 years because it's all got written up in different languages. When that medicine's created now by artificial intelligence, the code is available within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So if we use artificial intelligence to assist our lives and communicate with each other, it could be an amazing world. Look what the iPhone did to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember in a speech in Billboard, in a not a speech. I can't think of it now. It was a conference, and I mentioned, look, the iPod is the Beatles revolution, an Elvis revolution. When they put the iPod with the phone together, so the one unit becomes a phone and a music delivery, the world will explode with creativity and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Before, the iPod was one thing, but when you put the two things together, and then 4 months later, January, I think it was 2006, they announced the iPhone was coming. I thought, well, of course it's coming. You know, it's logical to put those two energies together. So that's changed the world. And it's all about communication. People can send pictures or videos or blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. So they've been training with that now. So say that started in 2007. You know, they've had that now at their fingertips for what? Suddenly can't add up. 16
years.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, so where it evolves from after it's been out there for 30 years is potentially amazing, because that's their thing. You know, some guys in my generation grew up kicking the ball against the wall and became a footballer, and that was their lives.
Yeah.
You know, the young of today have grown up with technology and embrace it, and their brains are hardwired to it.
Yeah. And again, I think that there's a place for both. I think there's a balance, if you will, between technology as a tool and technology as a crutch, and human connection and human ability as something that we do or something that we watch other people do. Right?
Yeah. So,
Eddie, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Nice, good, long chat.
Yeah.
Some very interesting stuff. Yeah. I'm very positive for the future, because I think that they have to keep it all going. They have to do it good, because the reverse is no good for anybody.
Well, and we want, and I think the vast majority of people on this earth are good people, and we want to be here.
You got a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah.
Right. How old is Sophie? 5?
4.
4.5?
Yeah.
You know, my daughter's 23. You know, we want to see a future for them.
Yes.
And they will embrace it going forward. I mean, who knows what the world's going to be like when your 3-month-old is 21?
I can't even imagine.
Unfathomable. I probably won't be here.
It's all
but
good.
You know, it's the pace of it, and I'm positive that they'll get it right. And at the core of it, all of it, will be this: music. It will still be there as the common denominator, the common language.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Music City Live. Ryan signing off with Eddie Gordon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Music City Live. If you liked this episode, like the video. And for more clips and episodes, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to join the conversation by commenting below, and visit us at musiccityliveshow.com.